Hello, everyone, and thank you very much for joining us today. I'm Deborah Garlick from Henpicked, and I'm joined, as always, by my wonderful colleague Sally Leach. And today's session, oh my goodness, how popular is this? Men, menopause, what men need to know. And so, of course, I'm joined by the wonderful Warner and Rob Kemp to learn about their book and from that perspective, their experience in writing this book. Now, we know this is a really, really popular subject. I think Sally and I hear about men's experiences every day. And for those of you that have dialed in, and for those of you that are sending me emails saying, can I get my husband to join this session? Will there be a recording so I can show it to him later? Yes, of course it is. But that just demonstrates how important this is. Menopause, and one of the statistics that I was just talking to Rob and Joe about, I hear the statistic a lot that menopause affects half of the population. And it doesn't. It affects all of the population. It affects half of us firsthand and the other half through their relationship. So, congratulations, Joe and Rob, for this fantastic book. It's available now. I've got the opportunity now of asking you some of those questions. And, that everybody can put the questions in chat and ask Rob and Joe what their experience is of menopause. But I just want to know, first of all, what made you write this book?
Yeah, we get asked that question a lot because it's like, well, what are a couple of middle-aged men doing writing about the menopause? But I think that was exactly who needed to write a book for men about it. And so, very long story short, Deborah. Firstly, thanks for having us both on. Me and Rob actually, my entire career is Rob's fault. He gave me work experience at Men's Health about 20 something years ago, and we'd always stayed in contact since. And I'd seen Rob had written a couple of books on being a dad, which kind of made me think about what was going on in my life. And my partner during pregnancy had a routine scan and a cyst was discovered on one of her ovaries. She was 35 at the time. And although touch wood, everything was absolutely fine, the words crash menopause, medical menopause came onto my radar for the first time in my life, and I didn't understand anything about it. So I went away and did a little bit of digging. And although the surgery to remove the cyst was completely successful, without being too blunt, we'd sort of kicked the can down the road. We knew that perimenopause was something that was going to cross our paths, and I wanted to be ahead of the curve and try and be a little bit proactive rather than reactive. So I went out and did some research, and unfortunately, I just couldn't find anything that really spoke to me as a male partner, as a male ally to help. And that's when I got back in contact with Rob again because he'd written some books, as I said, on parenting. And I thought, I wonder if there's the opportunity for a similar format, but about perimenopause, because I think some of the stats around how little men know about this are alarming, and I don't think it's down to a lack of empathy. I wanted to believe it was down to a lack of education. So we got to work interviewing as many people as we could get our hands on, right, Rob, to try and put together a almost sort of a blueprint, a playbook. It's not like this is how you handle perimenopause as a male partner, but it's literally advice around knowledge around what's going on, first off, communication, how to talk about these things when conversations are difficult, and finally, power, what's in your control, what can you actually, get on the front foot in your life about. Because I think this is a time for a lot of male partners where they feel really lost and really confused and heartbroken because they're seeing their partner struggle and just don't know what to do. So we wanted to try and address that knowledge gap and give some applicable, instantly applicable advice for how you could begin to get on the front foot and make a real difference to your partner's quality of life.
That's wonderful. So, Rob, when Joe came to you and said all of that, were you already clued up on menopause?
Not at all, not at all. And I think I was thinking along the lines of, I want to write a book that I wish I'd been able to read when my wife was going through the menopause or going through perimenopause. Um, just the impact it had on our relationship, the impact it had on her in the workplace, especially stuff I wish I'd known at the time. We both wish we'd known at the time. The interactions we had with the medical profession at the time. Everything myself and Joe put into the book was kind of with a view of saying, look, this is what could happen, and this is how best to deal with it. And we're very much kind of coming from the viewpoint of you can't fix your partner. Don't go down that typical male mentality of there's a problem, I need to fix it instantly. It's about communication. It's about knowing how to be the ally she will need on some days, especially, and just kind of educating yourself on what's going affecting you both at that stage in your lives. So yeah, I think that was it. When Joe first said to me about it, I thought absolutely, I knew I'd have needed that book in the past, and we put together something that the feedback we're getting already tells us that yeah, it's a useful guide for couples to have and men in particular.
That's what I love about the book. It's not clinical. You're not trying to be doctors, and you're not trying to fix us, because we all know what could happen if you try that one. It's just very, very practical. So, in your having done all of this now, one little question: what do you think men most misunderstand about menopause? The most common misunderstandings?
If I could put it into one word, Deborah, it would be everything. And I don't wish to be flippant there, but I think it's almost everything is currently done wrong. And the way I kind of explain it to people when I'm speaking to them is I think a lot of men have great intention, but awful execution. And that is the mismatch between what they think is helping or what is right and what they're actually doing is so far removed. So what surprised me most initially was how little women knew. Just to sort of change the question a little bit, I couldn't quite believe that something so important was happening to women, and most women were sort of blindly walking into this period.
Mm.
So I wasn't surprised that men didn't know. And again, it's really hard not to be flippant, but it's just that complete lack of any knowledge about what's going on at all is what is causing so much friction in relationships, I think. And it's not that men don't want to help, it's that they're either scared of getting it wrong, so they don't do anything. They sort of blunder in with offering solutions or trying to be funny about it, which often always comes across as dismissive. So to try and answer it in one word or one example, it is that mismatch between what they think helps and what their partner actually needs. So we spoke to tons and tons of couples, and it was that sense of men feeling like it's got to be a grand gesture. I've got to completely get everything right here. I've got the weight of the world on my shoulders. It's up to me to fix my partner. Where women were telling us, I just wanted to be seen. I just wanted to be heard. I just wanted to feel like I wasn't going through this alone. And what's been really lovely is when you talk to men about this and you make them realize that they don't have to fix anything and they don't have to do anything grand. They just need to be more present and they need to start listening properly. You can almost see the weight lift off their shoulders. That okay, this is going to require some work, but it doesn't require me to completely upset the apple cart. So apologies, that's quite a long-winded way of doing it, but it's not a case of there just being one thing. It's a complete mismatch of trying to understand what their partner needs and then trying not to get it too far wrong.
Well, absolutely. And I know we've in the UK we've been on a huge journey, and I was talking to somebody in Denmark this morning because they really at the start of their journey, and I think for me the biggest misunderstanding was age. When it tends to happen, because I think when we started talking about it 12, 13 years ago, everybody thought it was a lot older. So I think, and it was something you mentioned earlier, Joe, around being prepared for what's coming, rather than, as you said, a lot of the people that came forward were really struggling when they were trying to handle all of this. So it's important. This is a life skill, isn't it?
I think that's a brilliant observation, and I wish I'd said it first. But I think that mismatch between the age as well, because until medical menopause was mentioned to me, in that conversation with the surgeon, I thought menopause was something that happened to little old grey-haired ladies, and I'm not a women's health expert, but I worked for Men's Health, Men's Fitness magazine for years and years and years, and so I've got a better knowledge than the average Joe on the street. But I still didn't realise that this was something that happened in the 40s, and it's almost like it's the more you're into this, and I don't need to tell you guys, but how is there this massive blind spot that we're all not aware of, and even Rob, as an experienced health and fitness journalist as well, was still sort of making it up as he went along, right, Rob? It's incredible that we're all going through this, and I think what we want to do is get the book into the hands of as many men that need it right now, because maybe their relationship is on the rocks and they want to step up and help their partner more. But ultimately, the goal is to get it into the hands of younger guys because of the workplace impact. Because if you're ahead of the curve and you know what's coming, you might save you and your partner 2 or 3 years of scrabbling around in the dark trying to work out what's going on. So
That's yeah.
men have such a huge part to play here, but without that education, we're not going to get anywhere.
That's exactly something I wanted to touch on as well, is the fact that I don't think we're prepared or we're aware of the psychological impact perimenopause and menopause has. We know about the physical symptoms to an extent, or we have stereotypical ideas of them because our mums went through the change and the hot flushes and this kind of thing. But I think when you're seeing your partner who's on top of her job and she's on a great career path, and then suddenly she's kind of having these self-doubts and her confidence is being affected, and she's talking to her GP in my wife's case, and the GP saying, you maybe need to cut down on your caffeine, at no point asking questions about the last time she had a period or this kind of thing, just to take her down the right route of conversation and diagnosis. So I think, yeah, I mean, it's just so many things that we learnt along the way. But one of the things I don't think people realize is just the impact it has upon self-confidence, self-esteem, just the day-to-day management of the psychological load of life. And I think it was a big surprise to me. It explained a lot to me as well of what happened in our relationship and what happened to my wife. But I just think I wasn't prepared, and I don't think many of us necessarily are.
I think it's so true there, Rob, as well. Just sorry, Deborah, really quickly, that because that's the other thing that we speak to men a lot about is how dismissive they can be about the symptoms. Because for many of the symptoms are impossible for us to imagine, and I think that that distance and that lack of understanding means that we go to humour, either to try and lighten the load and not make it a big deal because we don't want to freak our partner out, or because it sounds so insane that we just can't get our heads around it. And we make a big play of saying to men, you don't have to understand or know every single symptom. You just have to believe what you're being told. If your partner is saying that, believe her. Don't question it. Don't joke about it. Just believe her, because women were saying to us, I just felt like I was going even more crazy because everyone around me thought I was crazy. And I think these are the easy wins we try to really emphasize in the book. It's you don't have to understand, but you do have to believe. And if you can do that, you're already 50% in a better position than you would have been before.
That's amazing. And it's a very, very practical book that you have. You called it the playbook. So let's get into your top tips for men, what they need to know and do.
Rob, do you want me to start and then you jump in?
Sure, I think at some point mention the fact that we spoke to a hostage negotiator as part of our search for tips and relationships.
Like, as you said, Deborah, the book is divided into three core sections. So the first one is called knowledge, and that's basically bringing men up to speed, because we don't know any of this. Like most men can't spell estrogen, let alone know what it does. And I think then they don't appreciate just how it's involved in so many different parts of the body, and what's going on there. We then move into communication. I think this is the real crux of the book, because the book is about perimenopause, but it's actually about communication and relationships. And I think this is where the most useful stuff is, because we need men to be better at listening first and foremost. I think so many people think they're great listeners, but they're actually just waiting for their turn to talk. So we do speak a lot about how to properly listen to someone, because as a lot of the people here will know, it's really hard to ask for help in midlife, because you're not just asking for help in that moment, you're asking for help with 15, 20, 30 years of relationship history bundled up inside of it, as right. So there's a lot of baggage going on, and we try and make it as simple as possible for people to communicate. And this is where it's been really lovely to get amazing feedback from women who've read the book, because we ask, we say to men, like, you need to maybe say signpost what you need from me right now, but women can also help there. And this is not a lecture about what women need to do better, please don't think that for a second. But some of the women said to me, it's really interesting seeing this from a man's point of view, because now I know how I can better signpost what I need. I can't just expect him to understand, because he's coming from zero knowledge at all. So I think that's been really useful in seeing how women and men are reading the book together, and almost then using that as a jumping off point for conversations about their own relationship. And then the final section of the book is all about power. This is exercise, nutrition, sleep, stress management. Because I think the key thing we want to get across is, as you said at the start, Deborah, perimenopause, menopause affects everyone. So the sooner you can realize you and your partner are on the same team here, even if you've been going head to head over and over again, midlife is really, really difficult. You've got this perfect storm pressure cooker, right? And then hormones happen, or fluctuate or change. And all of the tools we put in the communication section, is essentially how you keep on the same page, how you keep on the same team when life is conspiring against you. And as Rob said, we spoke to a former police hostage negotiator for conflict de-escalation because quite often men, we can't help it, and we should do better and we must do better. But we can get defensive. We can then antagonize the conversation. And there's a whole section just about how to de escalate, how to give your partner an easy way out. You know, if she's feeling defensive, all of these things I think are great in your relationship, but they're transferable to every other part of your life. Anyone you have a conversation with, this stuff is relevant. So, although we're not saying this is the way you approach perimenopause, because everyone's journey is different, what we've tried to do is give it, as you say, as many instantly applicable tools and games and tricks and strategies. So you go, let's try that one as a couple. Because, as I said, sometimes it's really hard to ask for help. And also, bringing something up, conversations need to happen in the right location. It's not just about what you say. Is it the right time? You're trying to stack the odds in your favor.
Fantastic. And I can see that there's some comments in chat. So I'm going to ask you the question. Did you both go with your GP then? With your wife to see the GP?
That I was going
I
to,
know my husband came with me and it was a mixed bag. It was very helpful having him there, but he blurted out right in the middle of the appointment that I was a nightmare to live with, which he should have probably have read your book, that wasn't a nice way to sort of describe me to the doctor. But did you go and see the doctor and what was your experience there?
that's what I wish I'd done, especially the second or third time when my wife went and she was prescribed antidepressants, sertraline, because again, the right questions weren't being asked. And I didn't know then that I could go along and I could sit with her. And I wouldn't have known to ask about the menopause either. I think, again, it was like Joe said, we had this kind of picture of someone who goes through the menopause and it wasn't immediately our wife. But I would have been able to talk more about what was going on at home. And from that, I think it would have been ascertained, okay, well, this is affected more than my wife. This has affected them both, and this is how it's affected them. It would be, it's a tip definitely within the book is to as Joe says, not only to be the best listeners, as we say in the book, aren't really debaters. They're detectives. They're asking questions. They're curious, and I think that's something that, as husbands, partners, sons of women who are going through the menopause, asking questions, how you are in particular, but also what is this? Why is this happening? What impact is it having? What can be done to treat it or to help your wife with that condition? So asking questions of the GP, if going along with your partner or those who you know are specialists in that area, as men, I think that'd be a really useful role on our part is just to be more curious.
I completely agree. The chapter 8 is called Dealing with the Doctor because we're expecting women to go into a 10-minute appointment, one issue, 10-minute appointment and explain everything that is going on when as everyone here will know, you're at your least capable of articulating how you're feeling because it's not just all of the chaos that's going on with hormones. It's because you're holding down a job. We're all at our peak professionally here in terms of responsibility and pressure. A lot of us have got either young or hormonal kids who need an awful lot out of us. Just this invisible load that women are dealing with constantly, I think a lot of men aren't even aware of. Again, that communication in the book, we talk about how men can lighten the load at home because that's what women were telling us. It's, again, don't need grand gestures. I need somebody to do the laundry. And all of these things are so important. And I think as a male partner going along not only going to the appointment, but preparation. Right. Keeping a symptom diary together. This is the stuff we need to talk about in our 10-minute appointment. And again, we say be specific. Don't say I'm tired. Say I've not slept for more than 4 hours in 3 weeks because doctors deal in real life situations. And all of this, I think men can be so helpful in giving their partner the confidence to say what's really going on rather than maybe, actually, do you know what, doctor, it's not that bad. Yeah, maybe it is all in my head. We all hear this all the time, this medical gaslighting of middle-aged women. And, there is some research that, a doctor will deal differently if a male partner is in the room. Now, we can argue all day about whether or not that's right or wrong. It's obviously horrendous, but we've got to meet people where they are. And if that's what it takes for a doctor to treat you more seriously, then drag your partner along and he can be taking notes, he can be recording the conversation. All of this, I think, we're expecting women to advocate for themselves when they're least able to do it. and some really simple steps, asking your surgery for a menopause specialist before you get there. You know, a list of questions, a list of outcomes. I want to talk about treatment. What are my options? I'd like a follow-up date. All of this being proactive, because women are just getting sort of, it's like a turnstile. Come in, out you go, antidepressants or nothing. And we've got to do better. And we can't expect the NHS to do better, so we've got to do it ourselves.
Fabulous. Thank you very much. And somebody's asked if your book also includes ADHD. I can't remember seeing it in there, but
We've not, but our publisher Sheldon Press has got some excellent titles all around perimenopause. So I would definitely go to the Sheldon Press website, because they deal with all kinds of neurodivergent issues around perimenopause, ADHD as well. So there are books out there. We don't cover it, but
yeah,
Sheldon has definitely got a great library of titles relevant to that.
that's wonderful. Thank you very, very much. And we will be sharing the link to get the book. It's a must read. And Sally, I could see that the chat was going bananas. So
Yeah,
thank you
I've
very, very
added the link. I've added the link to your website for the book for people wanting to find out more. And there's been loads of comments around really well said. Really appreciate calling out things like you don't need big gestures and those things. So I think it's really resonating with a lot of people. So thank you so much. And I think some of the key points that I really picked up on, the fact that it was a surprise to you how little women know about menopause. And I think and again, we heard that resonate with a lot when we're training in organizations. We talk about that a lot because there is often an assumption, well, surely if you're a woman that's going to go through menopause, you're going to know about it, because why would you not? But because we're not taught about it, we don't. And I think the fixing thing was very true. We've had it with an example in the workplace where somebody has said to their manager, I'm really struggling, and the manager's gone straight into fixing mode. I can organise a desk fan for you. I can sit you by a window. And the woman kind of saying, but I don't have any hot flushes, because there's that natural assumption to fix. So I think the big thing is what would be your number one tip to give to men to try and avoid that fixing initial response that we might have, because it's somebody we care about, we want to try and fix it. So what tip would you give to a man to try and avoid that?
Yeah, it's the good news is, it's really hard to get out of that mindset, but once you do, you open up a completely new side of your relationship. So something we do in the book is, if you're a man and you do fall into that trap of doing that, ask for signposts. So a really great one is, do you want to be heard, hugged, or helped? And just almost setting out the framework of the conversation, because we're also guilty of this. Rob and I know this better than most men now, right? Because we've literally written the book, but I still fall into the same traps all the time in my relationship. And simply saying, no one's going to take umbrage at, heard, hugged, or helped, because then that gives the partner, gives anyone listening, this is what I need from you right now. I just need to be heard. I just need to vent. I just need to get it off my chest. Actually, I need a hug. I just feel alone. Or actually, I do want a solution. What do you think we should do about this? And then it's such a brilliant way of being on the same team, a shared outcome, then not having that relationship friction, because you've jumped in with a solution and she just wanted to moan, or you've not even turned the football off, so you're not really listening. All of these things are really low hanging fruit. And another quick one, Sally, that I really, because everyone just said that this has been so useful, is every morning with your partner. Because a big misconception is everyone thinks they need to be at 100% to get through the day. Everything's got to be firing. I firmly believe as a couple, you just need 100% between you. It doesn't really matter where it comes from. So say to your partner, I say to guys, say to your partner each morning, what's your battery at? 20%. Okay, I'll find 80. And she's not had to ask for help or explain or justify, nothing at all. All she said is, I've got 20%. So as the man, I want to support my partner. I'll find 80. So I'll do more of X, Y, and Z, whatever it is. And women saying to me, it's just so nice to know that I'm not alone and we're instantly on the same team. We've got a shared objective. And this is what the book is about. It's not, there's nothing in here that's going to make anyone go, oh my God, I'd never thought of this. It's just reaffirming simple advice that means instead of going head to head, you're holding hands. And for so many women, that was all they wanted, just to feel like they weren't going through it alone.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that's something I do with my husband, is if I want to, and not necessarily about menopause, about anything, I just say, like, I don't need you to fix this. I just want to talk about it. Because yeah, natural response is, well, you should do this, or you should. It's like, no, I don't need that. I just need to be able to explain or talk about it. So I think that's really important. One of the questions, we've had this in various different ways. How can we educate men who don't seem interested to learn more about menopause or don't seem to care about the topic?
I
How would
think,
you
yeah, I
deliver?
mean, whenever I've had this conversation with guys, friends of mine even, and I've just said to them, I mean, I don't think they necessarily realise that something like 60% of divorces in the UK are initiated by women in their 40s, 50s, and 60s, and that kind of thing just hits home immediately for me to say this is what the impact will have on the menopause. It's not her thing, it's not a women's thing, it's affecting all of us. And if you're not careful, if you're not going to maybe just step up and as Joe was saying, just share some of the burden, then the outcome for you as as a parents, as a couple, as a relationship, could be devastating, and it's something to be taken seriously. The stereotypical ideas of hot flushes and going through the change and all this kind of thing is it's just it's no longer something that we can just sit there and say, okay, well, it's her problem. That's what I say. And I say the conversations I've had with a lot of friends of mine have been very much along the lines of things aren't going well here, and I need to get to the bottom of it. And there's that instant kind of wanting to fix it thing. And quite often is it a case of stepping back a little, having the conversations, finding out more, being curious,
Yeah,
asking the right questions, and above all, listening.
yeah,
No,
absolutely.
absolutely. And I'll just really quickly add to that, Sally, is yeah, the stakes are so unbelievably high, and I think a lot of men don't truly realize that because by default, everything in your relationship up to this point has been fine, right? Because you're still together. So there's almost that false sense of security where, oh, we'll be fine, we'll get through it. But I also think there's the slight carrot approach in that the men that really aren't interested, I think probably are scared. I think they probably don't, not all of them, but I think a lot of them are scared of change and the uncertainty that comes with it. And that's what we want to try and address in the book. Is like, yeah, this is scary, but a little bit of knowledge goes a long way. And I think once you understand what's going on, of course, it's going to be chaotic and incredibly difficult, but as a man, we want to be available for our partner. We want to support her. And we also talk in the book about what men go through in midlife because sometimes, it's obviously not the same at all by any way, shape, or form. But a lot of men feel a little bit lost in midlife because, life is just, there's a lot going on. Maybe life's not turned out the way you wanted. You're being pulled in different directions, work pressure, financial pressure. We talk about how men can take care of themselves because you can't support what you don't understand and you can't support if you're not supported as well. So we try and get men involved by making them realize there's a lot at stake for the relationship, but also for them. Do you want to be happier? Do you want to be healthier? Of course you do. It doesn't need grand gestures, but you need to do these small things right on a consistent basis. And we're not trying to reinvent the wheel. We're trying to make the day 5% easier, right? That's what we all want. 5% easier here, 10% less friction in this conversation, and then suddenly we're all winning. And reminding men that the stakes are high, but the wins are really, really easy, so long as you know where to look for them.
Absolutely. There's some really lovely comments around people saying how much this conversation means to them, and how they wish they'd had that support. I think that's really important. We've got one question I think is important just to have a look at is so how do you help someone who's been told by their GP they're going through perimenopause, but they don't want to accept it, don't want to talk about it, and they're just kind of bottling it up? So because again, there's that we always talk in certainly in workplaces, you've kind of got to meet people where they are in terms of how they feel about the conversation of menopause and everything that's wrapped up with the perception of menopause and age and all those things. So have you come across that in terms of how we overcome that barrier?
This is where I think another one of the mistakes men make, right, is that sometimes we get very, very defensive. We take it personally. And the advice that I was given that we've relayed in the book is if your partner is almost, I don't want to say in denial, but maybe struggling to come to terms with what's going on, that's where men double down. Right, you have to see that there's a problem here. We have to fix it. Whereas actually the best thing you can do is just stay steady and be there and be curious. And you're going to get your head bitten off 10, 15, 20 times. Doesn't matter. You're in it for the long haul, right? You've made this commitment. And it's about showing somebody that no matter what happens, you're not going anywhere. Quite often can be, it's not going to happen overnight, but gradually then by having these conversations, making sure you're having the conversations, as I said before, side by side on a long walk, not opposite each other at the table at the end of a day, giving yourself and your partner the best opportunity of talking to each other. And men will say to me, Joe, she's not really telling me what's up. It's like because you're not letting the conversation go on for long enough. No one's going to say, I've got a problem and it's this. it's the eighth, ninth, or tenth thing you talk about in a conversation that's actually the big issue, but you need to feel safe enough to say it. So my advice to any men in that situation is it is unbelievably tough, but it's harder for her. So what you have to do is just make sure you stick around and you are listening and you are available when she's ready. And it might be in 5 minute chunks or the dam might break one day, but if you're there, then you can do something positive about it.
Thank you very much. And you've mentioned perimenopause a lot, Joe. And conscious in your book, you do cover that there are various stages. A few people are saying, are you covering postmenopause? But for me, this is more about relationships. And I would feel more confident if all the men can read this book and understand it's a transition that happens over many years. So if you're starting in the perimenopause, educating yourself as well around the changes, risk changes to things like bone health, heart health.
Mhm.
It's a longer journey and it's about being the best you can be and in a really positive relationship for as long as possible.
Absolutely, and what I loved most about the book is it started off, I think for me especially, because I'm at the beginning of this journey is very very scary. But what came through very very quickly was a message of hope, in that I spoke to a lot of couples who had been through it and navigated this period, and to a man and a woman, they were almost glad they'd been through it because they'd survived. They'd been forced to address what wasn't working in their relationship. We've not even really talked about sex and libido, which we do cover in the final chapter of the book, because when you're forced to address what's not working and what you want and what you appreciate and share with your partner about what makes you feel loved and valued and all of these things, because when we're in a long-term relationship, it's really hard to talk about some of the stuff that used to be so easy at the start. And the harder it becomes, the more we bury it and don't share it. So I think that message of hope of if you can get through this, and of course it's very easy for me to sit here and say, do this and do that. But if you're willing to learn and to listen and to, as Rob said, to be curious, I really do believe that if you can get through this, the relationship gets so much better because you've been forced to address some of the difficulties, you've reevaluated what's important for you, and then you can prioritize yourself and your health and your happiness. And so many people gave me, lovely stories of how they'd navigated it and come out the other side so much happier than they ever thought they could be.
Thank you both very, very much for the session today, but also for this wonderful book. And to everybody that's joined us in the chat, yes, let's get that conversation going. Sally shared the link where you can go and buy the book. It is out now. And thank you very much, Sally, for looking after the questions. We'll see you next time. Thank you.